I just wanted to just set the stage a little bit.
Yes, please, Chase.
Dominique is the VP of Recommerce at Arc'teryx. And we thought that pairing this conversation with Jameis last week would be really impactful, considering all the work that he's doing in upcycling. And I know that there's a connection between Jameis and Arc'teryx as well. But I should also mention Arc'teryx is a big supporter of the program. And some of you who are in the seminar class heard from Robert Thomas, who's in Ogden, kind of leading things here in the US. So we love Arc'teryx and appreciate all the support from the company. But with that said, we'll turn the time over to Dominique.
Hey guys, can you all hear me okay? I'm just making sure I have you guys on the screen here at the same time. All right, perfect. Thanks for being here this morning. I'm super excited to speak to you and also kind of get engaged with you on some questions and learning from my side as well. My name is Dominique. I'm the VP of Recommerce for Arc'teryx. And I lead also the ReBird vision, and I'll explain what ReBird is in a short moment. I'm not sure if you guys are all really familiar with Arc'teryx, but I'll give you a little bit of history about the brand. We're founded in North Vancouver, which is where I'm currently sitting, on the unceded territory of the Musqueam and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. We were founded in 1989 by a group of climbers and originally launched with a vapor harness. That was the original launch of the brand. We actually didn't launch apparel until 10 years later, 1998. That was kind of the big sweep where we finally moved into apparel and started working with Gore-Tex. We also invented the now famous waterproof, watertight zipper technology, which we co-launched with YKK. So that's kind of where we got our ground. As far as our sustainability initiatives, we've really been working closely with our sustainability team, led by Katie Wilson. And in 2020, we published our commitment to reducing our carbon footprint by 65%, our greenhouse gas emissions intensity. And so that's really what we've been founded on. There are 4 pillars inside of our sustainability work that we really lean on. We look to community impact, which is primarily led by reconciliation. Worker well-being is a big one for us as well. And then climate, which is really closely tied to circularity. So that's that 65% greenhouse gas emissions intensity reduction that I mentioned. Inside of circularity, which is bladdered up into our sustainability commitments, we believe that extending the life of our product is going to be the best way to reduce our impact on the environment. We have, obviously our brand is made from petroleum-based products. We fully recognize the impact that the products have on the environment. And so we really believe in durability. And then when it comes to actually extending life of the product, we're trying to figure out ways of, there's a few approaches that we've had with our design team. So there's designing for disassembly, which is something that we're actively working on now. So we're looking upstream. Designing for circularity. So for repairability, that's a big one because unfortunately our products, since they launched in 1998 from an apparel standpoint, are really, really challenging to repair. There's a lot of glues and a lot of delamination that occurs with Gore-Tex. So we're looking upstream to try to resolve a lot of those issues from a circularity perspective. We also have been working really closely with our materials team and sustainability team over the last 10 to 12 years. We built out what we call a preferred fiber roadmap. So there are a lot of things that you will and won't see in our collection, such as fleece, traditional fleece, you won't see in our collection because of micropiling. You also won't see a heavy amount of cottons in our product. We have used it in the past. It's something that we're trying to address. We've been working with Gore-Tex to develop new developments for Gore-Tex materials that have a further reduction of impact on the environment. So all of this is proprietary to the brand, and we essentially launch it with Gore-Tex early, and then it gets kind of showcased to the rest of the world, and other brands can use it as well. The work that I'm involved in is the super messy, gritty stuff, and this all ladders up to what we call ReBird. ReBird is our vision statement for all of our circularity initiatives. It is our strategy, and it's built on 3 programs that we speak to. We lean on the Ellen MacArthur Foundation to define what our circular model should look like. And so we look at the three pillars, and I'll explain this within ReBird shortly. The first is to extend the life of our product, which I mentioned earlier. That's the number one key way that we can reduce our impact on the environment, given the type of brand that we are. The second is to make it with renewable and regenerative and recycled material. And that goes back to our drive with our advanced concepts team to develop for disassembly, develop for repairability, and to look to our preferred fiber roadmap and to ensure that we have a reduced impact on our environment in the future. And then designing with the end in mind, which is connected to this as well. So this is ReBird. The pillar that we stand on is waste less by design. There are 3 programs that we have inside of it. The first program is our upcycling program, which you may have seen some products on our site if you're familiar with the brand, called ReBird ERM. We've also worked with Jameis, we've worked with Nicole McLaughlin, we still work with both of them to come up with some ideas inside of upcycling. ERM stands for excess raw materials. We take end of the roll fabrics and trims and essentially turn them into something new. That's our shorthanded attempt at trying to get ahead of upcycling. My team, we're working on upcycling on a broader scale with used garments. That is going to be the biggest challenge, I think, for this industry, is how to take something that's not able to be used in its original condition and turn it into something net new. That's going to be the toughest thing for us to figure out, but that's going to be the most rewarding. So that's why working with partners such as Jameis and Nicole is really important, because they're able to think of ideas that maybe we haven't. And then we have to figure out how to scale. So that's the big one, is build from waste. I apologize, I realize it says it twice because apparently I like to write things twice here. And then the second one here is the one that I really focus on a day-to-day. Is keep the gear in circulation. So this is what we currently call in the US our used gear program. We're in the process of rebranding that. And then also our trade-in program. We essentially take back products that have failed warranty or exchanges, et cetera, products that have been previously kind of damaged or patinaed in some way. And then we bring them back to life. So we repair everything currently at ARC 1, which is our manufacturing facility here in Vancouver. We do everything pretty hands-on. It's to the same level of quality control as how we handle our manufactured goods that are new. So it's a pretty extensive process. It can be as simple as a front zipper repair, which sounds simple, but really isn't, because you have to also replace the 70D around the hemline, all the way to scraping off glues and trying to re-laminate everything back together with some older garments. We just did a pilot program with 51 pieces of archival products, trying to figure out how to bring them back to life in a way that they would still be super functional today. We were able to salvage 41 of those, 10 of which we sold through Grailed to promote the program, and gave all the proceeds away actually to Climbers of Color. So that was a really fun initiative for us, but we're looking to do that with all the rest of the vintage items that we have as well. And then the third program is around our care and repair. So that's our care education. We have a service center we just launched in New York City on Broadway. That is our first pilot center. We're looking to open up more. And this is a really important pillar, because we actually firmly believe that if you care for your products and extend the life of them as much as you can on your own side, we won't have 2 and 3, which is keep the gear in circulation, used gear program. And we won't have to look at how to deconstruct and disassemble product to turn it into something new if you can take care of the garments that you have when they're new. There's a lot of misconceptions around Gore-Tex, that it can't be washed, it can't be dried in a regular washer dryer. The reality is that the more you use it, the more you should put it in the washer and dryer, and then reapply DWR when possible. And there's often a misconception as well that you would give it to the dry cleaner, which is terrible for the product, and actually would cause delamination. We've seen people try to steam their garments and such. So it's really important. I think education is really at the core of all of this work. And that is really the primary pillar that we're focused on at the moment, is that last piece there that says care to make it last. That will become front and center of the work that we're trying to achieve here. Oh, apparently I jumped right to the end there. But so essentially, we have now the ReBird Center in Broadway. We're opening up one in Boulder in June, and we're opening a third one in Vancouver, actually on West 4th. And so that will be a full-fledged service center where you can do kind of light touch repairs inside the space. And then our plan also is to extend our counter service offerings inside of our store and make it more visible so that you can come in and get light touch repairs done in store. So that should really help mitigate the carbon footprint. And then also put the onus and responsibility on the owner's hand to take care of the product that they have. So that's going to be a big one for us. I would invite you all, we're putting together some video content actually to help showcase the kind of true messiness of re-commerce, because it is, it's kind of a beautiful messy, but it is super, super messy. I go to ARC 1 every week. There are boxes upon boxes of gear that are in generally decent condition. Some are in horrid condition and they need to be need a lot more time to repair, but there's some really, really great gear that have been exchanged for whatever reason. And it's sad to see the state that we've led to as humans, essentially just like stockpiling all of these goods. And at the same time, I'm really proud of the brand for having stockpiled all of its product and not having the heart to do anything further damaging with it. So we are slowly going through each of the boxes one by one. We have a team of QC people that go through, they basically look through the entire garment. It gets washed on site just to see if there's any further damage that occurs after washing. Then it gets bundled with a kit of raw materials and then sent over to our repair team where it goes through a full sweep. And then as it comes out through the other side, it gets QC'd again. If it doesn't pass QC, it goes back into the repair line until it passes again. This kind of ties back to the high level of standards that we have at Arc'teryx for our products. We don't want to put anything out into the world that is essentially we make product for life saving. This is for like extreme mountain conditions. And so we want to ensure that as we repair these used garments or warranty items, that they have the same functional use that they had when they were first built. We have a couple of ways of being able to repair items. We can try to repair them back to their original look and feel as much as possible. And then we have a second set, which is called the functional repairs. And a functional repair would mean that, you would take an Alpha SV and maybe the hood panel is delaminating, but the rest of the jacket is fine. So we remove the hood panel and we might not have the original colorway. So we add a different colorway. So you can see that there's been an adjustment made to the jacket. It's very visible repair. But it's still highly, highly functional. And that's really what we're going after, is to ensure that we have a super functional piece of garment. So that's essentially the re-commerce program as well. I'll open it up if you guys have any questions, because I'm sure that there are, and I hope so.
I've got an initial question. Can you talk a little bit about like the infrastructure that it takes to build out something like this and the new opportunities that develop? I'm thinking of like a company like Tersus that does like waterless cleaning. I don't know if that maybe doesn't necessarily apply to what you're doing or as a partner of yours, but like that's a whole new industry that's developing because of re-commerce. I don't know if you can speak a little bit to that, just the infrastructure it takes to build out something like this.
Yeah, certainly. So we currently work with a few partners. We work with Trove as our primary partner. So on the re-commerce side specifically, we wouldn't be able to do this work without them. They also work with Levi's and REI and a few other businesses. So Trove is a company out of San Francisco. They developed originally a software that enables single SKU management. And so for a brand like ours that's used to selling, hundreds of units, thousands of units of the same thing, we get into really tricky waters trying to figure out software for single SKU management, where like I mentioned, a functional repair would be a unique piece that has its own photograph, its own unique identifier. We don't have the technology to support that. Companies such as StockX and Grailed, any kind of platform such as that, they have that software, and that's why they're able to do the work that they do. And so Trove has this software built in. They also have a full facility to be able to handle all of the assessment on site. So as soon as a product comes in through the door, They tag it right away with our branding on the inside. There's a little label on the inside back, and they stamp it so that stamp won't wash off. And we know right away that garment's come through the re-commerce program. It's on the inside, so don't worry, it won't be visible to the world. But it also authenticates the garment. So that's like one of the big key pieces with our products is that, obviously there's a lot of fakes, and we want to make sure that the product is super authenticated. Once it goes through that stream, they assess it, they check it for damages, and then they kind of assess the quality, give it a quality grading. So excellent to great to good. They put it through the photo studio. It goes through wash as well, wash and dry. They use water, not unlike Tersis. It's a bit of a different beast, which I'll explain later. And then it goes through a regular e-commerce cycle where it goes through like a warehouse pick and pack situation to get shipped out to the guest. So we're working really closely with them to figure out how to further integrate the experience so it's like more aligned with our brand. So there'll be some development on the website that we'll do on the front end and on the back end that will develop together, and also some new software programming that they're working on for next year that will really help to unlock our capabilities beyond just the United States. We'll be launching a pilot program as well into Canada with them at the end of March. So it will give our retail stores right now, you can walk into any Arc'teryx store and offer your products for in-store trade-in at a discount of the original price of the goods. And we also have what's called a mail-in trade-in program as well. So you can ship everything. It goes directly either to us in Vancouver at our warehouse at ARC1, where it gets assessed on site, or it goes to Trove. Where we work with Tersis, so Tersis is waterless technology. These are these giant drum machines. You can throw a lot of product in there at once. They disinfect everything. So when we have situations where product might be contaminated some way, we send everything over to Tersis. And Trove also partners with Tersis. So if they can't handle it, they'll send it over to Tersis. Tersis will take care of disinfecting everything and then ship it back over to us. The beautiful thing with Tersis is actually some of the guys from there are now actually originally from Trove are now over at Tersis. They're working on setting up repair lines as well. So they've been starting to do some testing for repairs within the Tersis team. And then we're also working with another company that's called Gear Restore. They already are an authorized repair dealer for Arc'teryx in the US, but not yet for re-commerce. We're trying to figure out if we can work with them. We need to get to a place where we can educate these third-party partners on exactly how to repair Arc'teryx product and to use Arc'teryx raw materials. So that's part of the work that's actually occurring right now, is setting up that documentation so that we have a thorough partnership with these third parties. We wouldn't be able to do this work without the networking that has been created inside of circularity. It's been super rewarding to see how everybody wants to collaborate and figure out solutions together. It's very open sourced. There's even just with other brands, like, that we're working on I'm going to be on a panel of South by Southwest, and it's with Patagonia and Cotopaxi. And just the openness to learn from one another. We might kind of favor one material over another, but we all have essentially the same problem that we need to solve for. So companies such as Tersis and Trove are really kind of groundbreaking, and they're pushing the envelope a lot further ahead. And like I mentioned, I think the biggest opportunity is going to be inside of that upcycling space. It's how do you take in a coal or a JMIS and make that into a larger, more scalable solution. That's going to be, I think, the future.
Have you, as looking into the future, is there more potential within a specific area, like dealing with remnant or defective product, or focusing on the upcycling of return product?
I think the opportunities, like I mentioned, I think the biggest opportunity for us is that care, that front end service. It's similar to like, buying a car or having a bike. It's like you have to tune it up and take care of it. And with outdoor gear, it's going to be the same thing. So I think our biggest opportunity is on the education, offering ways to help service products so it lasts longer. We know that if like depending on the use of the jacket, how many years we might be able to get out of it, how do we extend that? So I think that's a big opportunity for us. So that's why it's really important to work with our advanced concepts team on our design side to think about like designing for repairability. and designing for disassembly. I think that's the biggest opportunity. So that, I think, will reduce the impact on re-commerce, will reduce, like, you know what I mean? It should eventually solve for the problem of waste. And hopefully we don't have to upcycle anything anymore, because we've managed to figure out how to solve for the first part, which is how to extend the life of it. And then it becomes a trickle effect for the second, for reselling, and like, hopefully it's just like nothing really there, just like very little left over for upcycling. That would be the beautiful thing. Unfortunately, we're on the reverse, that the world's been so highly consuming product and just discarding stuff and not using it well, not taking care of it. You know, we're all guilty of that. And I think if we can shift, it's really going to come down to a change in behavior. And how do we all collectively shift the way we look at product and look at gear and look at clothing and footwear and all of it, so that we know that we're kind of like the gatekeepers of responsibility on those goods, because putting in the landfill is not an option. And sending it to Salvation Army when it's been like torn to shreds is also not an option. Nobody wants your used junk. You know what I mean? So I think the biggest opportunity is that first part. I think right now, you know, we've been around since 1998 making apparel. We have harnesses from 1989. We have to look back in the rear view and figure out how to solve for the problem that we've left in our trail, while we figure out how to solve for the future. I think that's going to be like a game changer.
Speaking about solving for the future, how are you guys? I know you guys are, well, kind of organically stepping into the fashion industry. How are you guys kind of trying to account for that new influx of product demand?
What's interesting, it's brought in a new audience, a younger audience. It's, you know, I would say, like, when I started with Arc'teryx, we were definitely kind of like the dinosaur of all the brands. We would joke that that's literally who we were, and we were aging with the demographic. And I think the beautiful thing is the programs and, you know, the collabs and stuff that we've done has brought in a younger audience that really understands the true value of quality, of products that are designed for a very specific use. So it's not necessarily that there's an influx of, like, we're not just trying to, you know, berate ourselves in a way of like, you know, we can't sell more product, but at the end of the day, the responsibility is really, really key. And so the educational part is like really where we're anchoring towards. So as we bring in a younger audience, a newer audience to our brand, which we love, and if we can connect a younger, newer audience to the outdoors and create, you know, spaces and opportunities that are inclusive, such as our academies and our design events, then we can get everyone involved in the conversation and think about like that change behavior that I think is super, super important for all of us to think about. Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, very good question, because it's obviously something that we've talked about a lot about, is like, as we grow as a brand, are we inherently creating our own problem and making it worse? But we firmly believe that we can be a force for greater good. We have a saying inside of this building, we call it "Leave It Better." And that's like such a passion-driven force inside of this organization. You know, the preferred fiber roadmap, as an example, was really started out by the materials team that just saw all the waste that had been created in the world. And they were like, just sick to their stomachs thinking about the work that they were doing. So they were the ones who like rolled up their sleeves and they're like, we're not doing it this way anymore. We're not working with this kind of fleece anymore. We're going to stop working with these companies. And they forced the change with the partners. Like they're the ones who are saying to the Polar Tech and Gore-Tex and YKK and all those companies, like, hey, we can't work with this stuff anymore unless you guys fix it. And so that's like the true passion that the business has had. That's on one end. The re-commerce program, it was, you know, the guys at ARC1 were just like, what do we do with all this stuff? And you know, the people that were, any other company who had a warehouse full of what we called the circular space, it was just stacks and piles of boxes on pallets, just looking at it, would just go, just throw it in the dumpster. And nobody at ARC1 was willing to do that. Everybody was like, oh my God, we have to like figure out what to do with this stuff. So they started on their spare time trying to figure out how to fix it. We have guys downstairs here on our warranty team that spend after hours just going through raw materials and like taking a jacket that was brought back in through warranty and trying to figure out how to turn it into like a saddle for their bikes, or turning it into a new backpack, because they're so passionate about it not going to waste and they want to learn how to do it. So I think it's kind of built inherently in who we are. It's like the used gear program is another example of that. It's like, it was literally off the side of the desks. There were volunteer days where people from the office would be offered in exchange for pizza to come to ARC One to go sift through boxes and to create ad hoc inventory on a spreadsheet, just be able to like figure out how to put it through a repair stream. And this is just 4 years ago. And 2 years ago, even. It's only in the last year that we've gotten a little bit more automated. And I would say it's still not like clean at all. So I think our internal passion and drive is going to affect a lot of the change from within. And the nice thing is as we grow, we have a lot more of a voice that we can bring to those partners. You know, I've been speaking a lot with YKK about their zippers, and like they've got some ideas that are going to be really game changing for us, and we'll salvage a lot of the products that we've been having to take back in through warranty. So I think that's really key. Is like, even if any of you go to work within an outdoor brand, like keep that voice, keep that passion, and don't change your values or compromise who you are inside of this work. You can drive a force for change from within.
I love hearing you say that. I keep telling these guys, you guys have a voice, like start asking the questions. And so to hear your experience of that actually happening inside of your company is validating, I guess, for some of the things that I've been trying to share with my students. So that's really cool that it started with one person saying, hey, why are we doing this? You know, and questioning that. And then finding a team of people that are willing to work together with them, I think is really, really cool.
Yeah. And gaining any audience shouldn't change that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. How have, you know, as you've reached out to YKK, were they, I mean, you know, for you to come to them, did you get pushback initially from them on that? Or were they like, okay, yeah, this is a new way for us to innovate? How did that process go for you? You know,
it's been really fascinating with everyone. I would say all of the partners that we have still in our roster, because of the preferred fiber roadmap that we've established, and like the fact that we align with the Higg Index, et cetera, there's a strong understanding that we have high value inside of our business. And so to work with us, you have to be able to be a solution driver. And so, you know, inside of our organization, it's one of the reasons why it takes so long for us to even launch a product. Like I mentioned earlier, like we're finally launching this new backpack in the fall that's we've been working on for years and years and years, because we just want to get it right. And it's this relentless pursuit for like borderline perfection that this organization faces. And so these partners that we have, the YKKs, Polar Tech, you know, Gore-Tex, they know that about us. And so they're always like, what can we do better? How can we make it better? And so they're looking to us for like, you guys are the users of it. You guys are using it in our coast mountains. It's probably the most extreme conditions that you can get. And there's like ice climbers on our teams, and these guys will go out and test the product. The way our brand works is super unique from anything I've seen. It's much more like a fashion atelier. It's very hands-on. So if you were to step into the Arc'teryx building, so I'm sitting in the headquarters. So this is called HQ, and across the street, there's another building called the Design Center. And inside of the Design Center is a full-fledged development floor. And that essentially means like, it looks like a small manufacturing facility. And that's how Arc'teryx was born. So sewing machines, everything all set up there. Our designers and developers work lock and step with each other. So if they come up with a new concept, the developer will figure out how to produce it. It's essentially like a builder and construction engineer, and they'll figure out how to put together the product. And then they go out in the field and they actually test it themselves. So whether it's a harness or a pack or a glove or whatever they're making, they will go out and test it, and they'll test it until it fails. Test and fail, test and fail, and they keep doing that. They'll keep iterating on it. They salvage all raw material parts from around the building. And then once they get it to succeed, that's when they start validating it. And then from there, they figure out we don't use any tech packs. We send no drawings to any factory. We send them a sample, and we send a pattern, and that's it. And we're like, tell us how you're going to build it with your machinery, and then we'll tell you if it's accurate, and then we'll test it again. And then once they get it right, then we feel okay about commercializing it, but only then. So for us, it takes like, that's why there's all these iterations behind me, is it takes that many years for just to make one jacket lighter.
So you do that with each product that you produce. That's really fascinating. Because we've talked about that, how we've heard from some other companies who aren't doing the product testing. And if you're truly trying to embrace circularity, that probably, if you're looking at durability and longevity, is kind of what we just covered last week, but that product testing and identifying the things that you want to work and work really well needs to be an integral component of the design process. So that's awesome to hear your guys' process with that.
What the designers have a good time here.
Oh my gosh, it sounds like it. Like that's the true, like, because they're creating and they're seeing it come to life right before their eyes, and then being able to go out and use it. That's just excellent. What other questions do you guys have about some of the processes that Arc'teryx is following and using, or just questions for Dominique?
You talked a lot about,
I have
sorry.
Go ahead, Kaysen, and then Kenzie, we'll have you jump in.
Okay. You talked a lot about education as far as consumers, specifically for care. I think you used an example of Gore-Tex and how it can be washed. What are the ideas that you have come up with, or I guess the plans that you guys have for educating those consumers? Is it going to be hang tags, education, information on your website? Like what all are the ways that you guys are innovating to try and get that information across?
Yeah, I mean, we've always had the repair capabilities inside of our stores. We never fully talk about it. There's no signage that says anything. It's not discussed really. It's kind of something like if you come in and say, hey, something's up with my jacket, then they'll be like, oh, by the way, here's this whole toolbox that we happen to have hidden somewhere in the back. So I think putting it front and center is going to be really, really important for us. We're also working on a full-fledged packaging initiative. We're actually thinking about what is packaging, what should it look like. We're obviously with circularity in mind, we're like, do we need packaging? So do we need hang tags, or is it just codes that you scan with your phone and that's where the information comes through? We're trying to get a lot more efficient with that. So from a packaging standpoint, it's something that's being considered, but obviously less is more. So we're trying to be a lot more focused with what we actually put out in the world, including cardboard. And then once we have the service counter set up properly, that's going to be like an ongoing rollout that we're starting actually this year. So if 2022 is our foundational year, we're hoping that 2023, we have a lot of them actually actively turned on. And then these service centers are really important for us. There's what we call our retail store fleet staff. They're called our program guides. There's a lot of training that's currently going underway over the next few months to ensure that they're fully onboarded and know how to handle light touch repairs. Zipper sliders are an issue that pops off quite a bit, so we're trying to correct that. We can, if you accidentally snag your puffy or your jacket on the hill with a tree or branch or anything, we can do a light touch repair with tenacious tape, and we can easily do that on site. Anything that requires stitch opening is more of like something that needs to go off site, and we're trying to regionalize it so that it's like more closely adjacent to the cities where we're physically located in, versus having it all shipped back to ARC1, which is just highly, highly inefficient and really terrible from a carbon footprint perspective. They are the best at what they do, but it doesn't mean that we can't educate others to support us in longer term. So that's why I mentioned that Gear Restore and those other third-party partners that we can develop. But yeah, from an educational standpoint, it's going to be, I think, really around our retail store footprint. And there was another question.
Yes, Kate, mine
Hi.
was pretty much the same question. I was just wondering, yeah, if that was just making your care labels really detailed so that customers know how to take care of their items and realize that they can wash their jackets and stuff. But I feel like you did touch on that.
We have some YouTube videos that we put out like 4 years ago, and they're like, I love Devin, who's in them. He's one of our after sales leads. He's so detail oriented, but so that as a result, there's this 4 minutes of how to replace something that should actually take you lot less time to do. So we're going to get Devin to reshoot those, and we're going to try to put that education really on the forefront of the site. So it's just a lot of there's a lot of brand marketing work that we're partnering with to create the content so that it's front and center and super accessible. And it empowers the individual to be able to do the repairs themselves. You have a pair of needle nose pliers and we can send you the part. You can easily do it.
What are some of the things that make you kind of maybe feel nervous or anxious about, I guess we'll just leave it at that, nervous or anxious, like how do you really, tackle this program of circularity? What things are you still maybe unsure of that we could ask Dominique about?
Or do you have ideas for me?
Yes, or ideas.
I look for solutions.
I guess, so I have a question. How long do you test something for durability before you're like satisfied with sending it out for the market?
Great question. It depends on the garment and the end use. So speaking of our shell jackets, that would probably be what we're most known for. Our product design cycle for Advance, I'm trying to think of where we're at now because we changed things a little bit over the last 2 years, but it used to be, we were on a 3-year cycle, once validated, once tested, approved everything, we would only put it out in the world 3 years later. It would take us that long to get it out. There'd be extensive testing even within the factory level. So at the time, up to 2 years ago, I would say it'd be like a 3 to 6 year cycle. The pack that we're launching this fall for avalanche safety, that one is a partnership that we're launching. That one has been in development now for, I want to say 4 or 5 years. We launched a pack a few years ago. We weren't happy with the battery inside of it. This is a new opportunity for us to launch something new that we're really excited about. And so it just really depends on what level of life-saving does this need to be, because we're going to insert harnesses that needs to be heavily tested. Yeah, number of years, certainly. And then as you get into more the fleece I'm wearing right now is actually a valence fleece. So we've been testing this material for a while. We're trying to obviously reduce micro shedding. We've stopped using fleece in general, and this is my wear test sample. So we're trying to see how it wears and washes over time. So I've been wearing this around the office all the time, wearing this out about. I wear it snowboarding as well. And then I will give back to the designers eventually to learn from what happened to this piece. But I've been asked to wear this. It's been over a year.
That's pretty
still wear
cool
testing it.
That's cool that they let you kind of test it out and just be like, hey, give it back to us and we'll see what happens. So
yeah,
that's pretty cool.
I don't know how it wears.
Yeah, in reference to your wear testing, do they have you keep a log of how many hours you've worn it, or do they just say go wear it, use it, and then give us your initial feedback? How do they collect data on that?
Yeah, they'll ask you, so just essentially wear it, wash it as you normally would, and they ask you to wear it more often, keep it at regular use. It's very dependent on the end use case. So they'll ask you exactly, where were you? Is it just day to day? How did you wash it? Did you put it in the dryer? Did you put it in the wash and the dryer with other garments? That kind of stuff. So yeah, it's pretty extensive. The warranty team has a lot of feedback. So anytime you guys have any issues with your garments and you send it through, all of that information goes back to our design team as well. As long as it's triage, we can triage, there's a consistent problem with something, and then we're like, okay, we need to let the designers know, because they probably need to stop using that type of zipper or stop using that type of material because it's causing problems. Or we need to look at how we sewed it, because maybe the stitch tore open on a pair of pants and it just wasn't holding up. So we get a lot of feedback from the regular user as well as ourselves inside the building. Somebody had a question or a comment. Somebody's got lots of ideas.
Yeah, Landon.
I love it. Yes, get more involved. Bring in the ideas in. We are definitely we're humble in this space. it's like us working with Jameis was really eye-opening for us. I went to Arc One and picked out jackets for him and shipped them all over, and just for him to be able to disassemble and turn into his designs. That's one solution that was provided to us. Nicole has her solutions that she provides. Hers are art forms. She's been part of our design summits as well, and academies that we work with to try to really onboard people to the concept of upcycling and taking the power in your own hands and learning how to sew. A lot of that's kind of a lost art form. There's not a lot of people sewing anymore. So if you can, pick up a sewing machine. It's fun. But yeah, the ideas are great. I mean, I can show you the problem and maybe there's something out there we haven't thought of.
Awesome. I'm going to probably introduce you through email to Landon. He's actually just picked up an internship here at Utah State. We're trying to get a repair shop set up on campus.
Awesome.
And so he's kind of our lead guy on that. So I might have him, I'll make an introduction.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Maybe you guys can repair our stuff.
Well, that'd be awesome. We'd love to look at something.
I'll send you guys some parts.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get in touch with that. I think that would be really awesome. I mean, that's one of a big thing at Utah State is we are trying to reduce our own sustainability or our own footprint, right? And become more sustainable in other areas. And so it's kind of exciting to see where maybe we can go with this.
A question. You talked about a lot of the information that's collected during the testing process and how that's given to designers to improve products. Is there similar data collection from returns and gear that's completely worn out? And does that is that then shared with the designers to create a more durable or repairable product in the future?
Yeah, we work lock and step with who I mentioned as the design concept, the advanced concept team. So with Tom Fail, who's been with us for a number of years, and Greg Grensky, those are the two key leads, and then their team as well. So we have regular touch bases with them where we'll bring them to Arc One and show them, hey, this is the problem we're dealing with. Do you have a solution for us? Or this has been a consistent issue. We keep seeing over and over again in this return product we're trying to repair, and then they'll kind of go back to the drawing board to try to figure out how to solve for upstream design, as well as try to give us solutions on how to repair. We have some amazing operators inside of Arc One that have been with the brand for a number of years. So sometimes we're able to lean on our repair teams to come up with solutions where, you know, maybe we can't relaminate something, we can redo some sort of abrasion to relaminate it, or we just might sew it back in and add a backer to it. It's not a big deal. It just adds a little bit of bulk, but at the end of the day, it still gets the product back into the field, and it's highly, highly waterproof. So yeah, lock and step with our design partners, which is how we created the whole program of design, designing for so from a functional repair perspective, because we used to try to repair everything back to its original standard. So if it was a red jacket, it had to be a red jacket with a red zipper. But what if we didn't have that original zipper anymore? Or what if we didn't have that original material anymore? Because Gore-Tex, we've evolved from Gore Pro. There's like different iterations of. We started with XCR, back in the day, and we've evolved since. So like we need their partnership to be able to figure out how to repair something, regardless of the year that it came out.
I was just gonna ask, are there like unique roles that designers play at Arc'teryx that maybe wouldn't be involved so much like in other companies? Because it just seems like designers are super involved in like repair and research. I don't know, just as like a future designer, like it seems like an awesome place to work. And if they're just different or unique roles that you think designers play at Arc'teryx.
Yeah, I think it depends on the department you're in. So all the designers work on one team, but they have different kind of streams of focus. So we have a men's design lead, we have a women's design lead, and then we have the advanced concepts team. I would say if like when it comes to like truly iterating like the new what's in the future, the advanced concept team is really kind of more up your alley, super fun. All of the teams are super involved in like the wear testing and the further development of the product. Everyone here is like super passionate about the outdoors. loves the simplicity of the design, really passionate about the quality. And then the opportunity is within the advanced concepts team as to like what to design for in the future that we haven't yet imagined. That's that team that gets to do that kind of work, which is super fun.
That's awesome. And I guess along with that, you said you're not sending tech flats to factories necessarily. So you have pattern makers and sewers that are prototyping, and then you send those to the factories to go off of instead of flats, basically.
Yeah, we have two ways of working, and we're starting to dive into more the second one. So the first are just samples and patterns. The other way of working, we actually developed more so within the Valence team, was the Clo3D programming. So 3D is like obviously the now, and a lot of the ways that we're trying to onboard our designers to learn how to create the product. It's nice because we've been able to upload all of our material packages inside of it. We have all of our fits inside of it. And so getting really, really savvy with Clo3D is really, really key, because I think that's going to improve our way of working in the long run.
Do you think that's created a more sustainable approach, so you're not back and forth with factories?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that would be the hot tip. Learn Clo3D. We also will teach our staff Clo3D, so our designers will also be onboarded to it over time. But it is it's an important program for us. Any 3D technology.
Do you know how much time that has saved the development program of the product, instead of having to go back and redesign and get back and forth? Does the product just pretty close to finished when it comes back from your factories?
It's a good question. I actually don't know the answer to that offhand, but I can look into that. I can get back to you on that one. I don't know how much it has saved, but I imagine it has. When I was with Valence, we didn't have all of our products going through Clo3D, but it definitely cut down on the communication back and forth. It improved and streamlined the efficiency.
So take the 3D apparel class, learn browseware.
Yes.
We offer browseware here, just because we got a great deal, and some
Clothes expensive, yeah.
Yeah, some companies use browseware and some use Clo. We've happened to just gravitate towards Clo, but Clo also has we've gravitated towards browseware, but Clo also has a great student discount, student license, and we've had students learn browseware as a foundation and then go kind of teach themselves Clo at foundation. So
yeah, one of your biggest things with that is just learning. I mean, you guys know your Adobe Illustrator and things like that, but then it's like, how do you apply the fabric physics? How do you stitch the garments together to create all of that? So if you're learning a 3D programming, that knowledge that can transfer from software program to software program fairly easy. Drastically reduces the learning curve if you learn it first. So yeah. Well,
I think getting really hands-on is key. I was just going to jump in and say that,
yeah,
because like learning how to sew, learning how to make your own patterns, that's a lost art form that we do look for here. And so knowing that is an important skill. And then the 3D component is really essential, way above and beyond Adobe skills.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thanks for validating that for us as well, Dominique. Thank you for your time this morning. As really, inspiring, insightful for us to get a glimpse into your guys' practices and processes, and love that you've validated everything we've talked about so far in class and we'll continue to talk about. So thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you. And thanks to Dr. Dreg for playing on camera. I'm loving it.
All righty.
Thanks so much, you guys. Really appreciate you all being here. And I can't wait to see you guys over here at some point. So look forward to hearing from more of you. I'm online. I'm always available.
Okay, thank you, Dominique. We appreciate it.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.